I'd like to, when I think about the voice of the customer, I really divide it into two camps, solicited and unsolicited information. And to some extent, this is also the difference between social media monitoring and customer feedback management. So, for New Year's, our family went to a restaurant here, Maggiano's, and got this receipt, and of course, there's an invitation to go to a website, and what does it say? We invite you to complete our guest experience survey. So, of course, you go through this survey, and there's all kinds of answer choices you're going through, and there's also some open text boxes, and you're filling those in, and as it happens, I know the folks at Brinker, which is Maggiano's parent company, and I called them up recently, and I asked them, so what's the story? Well, approximately 2% of Brinker customers actually complete these surveys, and that translates into about 5,000 survey responses a day. And what Brinker has found is that there's really a very strong correlation between guest ratings and guest retention. In fact, they determined that something like 95% of delighted guests, quote unquote, will be repeat customers. And that percentage drops significantly for people who rate Brinker brands low in terms of performance. So, they're looking closely at the data. They're using text analytics, defining the opportunities that are in the data, and it's just it's key for everyone. And actually, in the restaurant, I noticed that they're playing a lot less Frank Sinatra music, so maybe that was in response to the customer feedback. Although I actually like Frank Sinatra, but everyone's capturing this information. They're tabulating the quantitative response information from the surveys, which is pretty easy to do. But compiling and interpreting the open-ended feedback, that's really a different story, because that's unstructured data. And let's talk about unstructured data for a moment. And at the risk of stating the obvious, there are differences between structured and unstructured data. I just want to make sure we get our definitions out of the way. So, here's some information about the Trump Hotel here in downtown Chicago, where it happens to be about 10 degrees right now, by the way. A pinpoint on the map of downtown Chicago is structured data, right? Guest ratings and reviews about the Trump Hotel on TripAdvisor, however, is unstructured data. So we see both structured and unstructured data when the Trump Hotel invites guests to complete their online satisfaction survey, following their stay. And, like the Maggiano survey, these surveys consist of standard questions with answer choices for rating different aspects of the experience, from the cleanliness of the room to the friendliness of the staff. But they also contain questions with the comment boxes for soliciting open-ended feedback. So again, to make sense of unstructured data that exists in these online ratings and review sites, and to make sense of the data that people put into their satisfaction surveys, as well as information from call center transcripts and email and really any other free-form format, it's necessary to use natural text processing software. You need to utilize pattern recognition technology and other semantic approaches to mine and extract meaningful information, to create clarity from all the noise that's out there in the world. So social intelligence, so this is a term that's been gaining in popularity, and it's one we've been using quite a bit at Gleanster. In fact, we recently published a benchmark report called Social Intelligence. And myself, being a history major, I'm always interested in tracing the origin of these types of terms. And what I often discover is that lo and behold, what's old is new again. So this term social intelligence was actually coined in the 1920s. It was used to refer to an individual's ability to understand other people and to engage in adaptive interactions with them. So here's a definition from 1933. Social intelligence is the ability to gain insight into the temporary moods or underlying personality traits of strangers. And in many respects, this 80-year-old definition is equally applicable today with respect to the advances we're seeing with voice of the customer analytics, right? It's the ability to gain insight into the temporary moods or underlying personality traits of strangers. It's really also the ability to engage in adaptive interactions with them. And So I thought that was interesting, and what's also interesting actually is this word intelligence, which can mean not only an individual's ability to learn and to reason, but also a body of information and knowledge. So you think of the Central Intelligence Agency or business intelligence, or even customer intelligence, in which case the body of knowledge consists of consumer profiles and other information, including information from social media that gets collected and then stored into a centralized data repository. So when you talk about improving the customer experience, really, what can you learn by listening to the voice of the customer? Well, let's take another example from the restaurant industry. Every frequent restaurant goer is familiar with Zagat ratings and review guides. It's kind of their culinary Bible, if you will. And the scores are derived from numerical ratings on these 4 assessment criteria, right? Food, decor, service, and cost. And, these 4 factors would seem to be the ones that would have the greatest impact on the overall dining experience, including the likelihood that a guest would want to pay a return visit and also recommend the place to their friends and family. These metrics, of course, can be easily tracked and measured in terms of things like customer satisfaction and brand advocacy. Just about everyone now is using Net Promoter Score. But what most guests don't realize is that, at least from a restaurant's perspective, each of these 4 factors is also influenced by any number of underlying drivers, and each of these drivers must be meticulously identified, analyzed, and optimized on an ongoing basis. So, and even beyond these factors, there's lots of other stuff going on, right? For example, a restaurant may be graded in the minds of its customers on, say, the degree to which it makes an emotional connection, or whether it shows that it actually values them. So all kinds of drivers and factors and attributes come into play depending on a restaurant's customer value proposition, their brand promise. So, you need to listen to the voice of the customer, and that means uncovering these insights and also prioritizing the focus areas that will ultimately have the biggest impact.